What's the haps, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. for the premier Carolina Panthers fan podcast, bringing you that Panthers talk straight from the fan perspective. And tonight we've got a special celebration because it is Lucky St. Paddy's Day, and I'm here with two of my favorite people. Mel Mayock, are you Irish?
I am part Irish, and my name is definitely Irish. Happy to be here on St. Patrick's Day.
Is Mayock Irish or is Ford Irish?
Aaron. Aaron, as in Aaron Go Raw.
Oh, okay. All right. We also have Jason Opal from Carolina Pro Football Talk. And are you Irish, Mr. Opal?
Hey, we're all a little Irish today. I don't care what color you are. You're a little bit green today.
True.
I think St. Joseph's Day is what I should be preparing for, because if my heritage is mostly Italian, even though my last name doesn't reflect it. But today I am certainly Irish. In fact, I'm probably more Irish than most people 365 days of the year because I could put them down. But we're going to jump in and we're going to celebrate. And before we do that, I need to get in and tell you guys what we're going to be talking about. This is episode 15.7, the St. Paddy's Day special. And yesterday began Carolina Panthers free agency period. Yep, that's right, a week later than the rest of the league. But we're here to talk about the two additions that the Carolina Panthers have made since we last spoke. And as usual, we'll finish that thought, fact, or fiction, and issue our ice-up picks. Once we get started, guys, we're going to be going full pace. So just to let our viewers know, I know you're watching. I see you. Go ahead and hit the sub-up button on YouTube right down below you. Just click it. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And if you're on Twitter, that's where we're at, like more than not. Follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles, like our Facebook page, Carolina Cat Chronicles, and you can download the podcast later on iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn Radio if that's your if that's your jam. So thanks for joining us. It is a celebration. Aaron, is your microphone working? You got a mute on.
Yeah, the dogs went a little crazy in the background. So
okay, all right. Well, you know what? What we have is, for the first time ever, the technology is working, and we are down a member, guys, tonight. Our boy, that freaking Puerto Rican's had a rough week. He's been in and out of minor surgery. So, in honor of Joe Riolano and St. Paddy's Day, I'm going to toast him with a little Irish whiskey. Aaron is drinking beer, not wine, which is crazy, right? So he's not going to be
in honor of the freaking Puerto Rican. It's beers for you.
This is the oldest Irish whiskey distillery, Bushmills. All right.
Do a shot.
Let's get
Water
this
from
party.
on the DD.
Jason is the greenest DD there is. All right. It's time for the Professor's Lectern, guys, and let's talk about what has happened over the last week since we have all joined together. It's been a while since we've been with our boy Jason, but I'm sure you've been covering this as closely as we have. The Carolina Panthers dipped their toe into free agency over this past weekend, picking up Teddy, the head, Williams, as well as Kurt Coleman yesterday, a.k.a. Mike Mitchell Redux. We didn't get a lot of action in the opening week. Carolina showed up fashionably late to the party. Are either of these moves blips on your radar? Mel, I'll start with you.
Well, they are, only because they are signings. We were waiting and waiting, but, they still feel like dollar store signings. But, you got to trust and get them in a little bit. We said the same thing when we signed Mike Mitchell a couple years ago, and he worked out pretty well. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Jason, how do you feel about these moves?
Well, I mean, to me, it's exactly what you expect of Dave Gettleman. And, he buys heavily into the, draft and develop philosophy. And I take a little bit of issue to say that we haven't been active in free agent, just because, to me, the big sea change that I was hoping to see this year, now that we have a couple dollars to, in our pocket, is we're signing some of our own back. So some of the key guys, you saw Ed Dixon, who really started to come on last year. He got a 3-year hitch the same year as Greg Olson.
Jason, we actually call him Trendy Dick Sob around here.
That we do. His name is Trendy Dick Sob.
Okay, so Trendy, he got a 3-year hitch, and a number of Panthers got 2- and 3-year deals. So to me, that was a big change from last year, and I didn't expect a big free agency splash. And if you looked at the way that Gettleman handled the draft last year, I mean, he brought in a few guys, he targeted a few guys, he brought them in quick and early, and he went hard after he got them. And those are the guys that we saw show up earlier, Michael Orr, Ted Ginn Jr., those guys who we've been talking about on CarolinaProFootball.com for better part of a month now. So this isn't a real big surprise. You'll probably see some more stuff later when some of the vets start to get desperate. Like you said, this is just sort of running around, dime store type players. But Dave Gettleman is good at picking those out. So.
All right, I want to ask you guys about Kirk Coleman, because here are my thoughts. I think Kirk Coleman could be a diamond in the rough. I think that this is a potentially great signing for the Carolina Panthers. Maybe this is me being free agency starved, having a hunger for something to get excited about. But what I look at is Kirk Coleman, you cannot get a guy for cheaper than this. The guy signed a $2.8 million deal for 2 years with $600,000 guaranteed. We got him for 2 years for, it's almost less than the league minimum. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is ridiculously cheap. And what we have is a guy who was picked seventh. He was 7th round pick by the Eagles. He was drafted out of Ohio State University. He's fast. He's a big hitter. He runs a 4.5. He's a big hitter. He's been in the league now 6 years. I think this will make his 6th year coming up. He was drafted into Philadelphia, and one person put it, he outperformed expectations. But then they raised the bar for him after he started 26 games, hamstring injury, new coaching staff, 4 defensive coordinators later, and he finds himself on the way out. But here's what I like about this guy, is that even in a rotational role, he finds a way to make his name be known. He's had, in his first 3 seasons, he had 7 picks and just 386 snaps with the Kansas City Chiefs. He led the team in interceptions with 3 picks. So the guy's got a nose for the ball. He likes to hit. He can play both free safety and strong safety. He wants to start in this league. This could be reminiscent, and this is why I call him Mike Mitchell Redux. Do you guys see any of that potential with Kirk Coleman?
Well, let me first say that's why they call you the professor. You came with it there and you taught us some stuff. That's impressive. Now, for all
There's
of you,
a great piece up on the website that I wrote and pounded out last night, so you can check that out.
There is. Go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and check it out. Mike Mitchell Redux. But you see the professor hitting the Irish whiskey there, so it may take a different turn towards the end of this podcast, but that's impressive, man. That's a lot of good stats. But you got to wonder, why did he come so cheap if he is that good? And we'll see. Time will tell, but I think the potential is there, and I agree with Jason that Gettleman is really good at finding these diamonds in the rough. He's hit on more than he's missed. He missed a few last year, but hey, as far as the draft goes, man, when they did the redraft, we got 3 first-rounders in the redraft. So he has a real eye for talent.
All right, Jason, I want to ask you about Kirk Coleman a little more. Is that the 2-year deal was interesting to me. Not only was he cheap, but signing a 2-year deal on that for that cheap. Mike Mitchell was signed for a 1-year deal. Mike Mitchell had less success prior to coming to Carolina. Both are coming out of bad defenses. Not so much Kirk Coleman played in Kansas City, great in a reserve role, but the Eagles were a terrible defense. Oakland was a terrible defense with Mike Mitchell. So it's hard for these guys that are maybe a little rough around the edges at time to perform in poor defenses, but you get a good front 7 in them, and you get a guy that can pop people over the middle, that gets the nose for the ball, all of a sudden he can look better than he's looked before. fit could be a lot. And my question is this: is the significance of the 2-year deal, does that mean anything to you in comparison to just a 1-year wonder?
I think it hits on a couple things, and I think you're right on the head when you say it's all about the fit. And when you talk about fit, you're talking about someone who's a known quantity, Sean McDermott, who he was with him during his days with Philadelphia. So to me, Sean McDermott and Dave Gettleman give them sort of their sort of imprimatur and put that on them. To me, that's plenty enough. As far as a 2-year deal versus a 1-year deal, you get the feeling that a lot of that's economics. You don't know exactly how he's going to play when he gets into our system. Obviously, you go ask Pittsburgh how they feel about Mike Mitchell, and they sort of had a little bit of buyer's remorse. So, I mean, you can't just project a player from one team to other. So I think with this front seven, as you said, almost anyone is going to look a little better than they possibly are. But to me, this is more,
with the exception of Thomas Deku.
Yeah, well, you can't cover up everything. So there's only so much whiskey you can drink before that starts looking good to you. But the big thing to me is,
y'all are making me thirsty.
Break up, buddy.
I think you were thirsty before this, but to me, this is competition, and this is Roman Harper insurance. I mean, you always want to have competition on your roster, and that's what this is. I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's sort of been kind of a low-end starter, probably with a really great front seven like what we have. He's probably going to look a little bit better than he has anywhere else. And as I said before, Sean McDermott gives his stamp of approval. He's earned my trust in that. And, we mentioned Dave Gettleman. We know what his record is. So I feel very comfortable with this. In 2 years is, economics. And, hey, we have, more than 5 cents in our pants pockets running around during St. Paddy's Day.
Yeah, for me, though, I understand. Generally, I would go, yes, the 2-year deal is a matter of economics to where you're trying to spread the guaranteed money out, right? So that you don't get so much of a cap hit this year. But what's interesting about this is the deal has very, very little guaranteed money. So really, you're spreading out $600,000 over 2 years, which is $300,000 guaranteed this year, $300,000 guaranteed next year. He gets a $700,000 salary and then a $900,000 salary. What's interesting to me is that I feel like this is an extremely organizational friendly deal. And that, yeah, okay, you bring him in for that role, supportive role to Roman Harper, but what if he does perform well? What if he can step into that starting role? What if Trey Boston goes down and he steps into free safety where he's played more time and he does perform well? What you don't have to do is worry about signing him next year. What if Carolina has to go and we go on a big run defensively, and these guys, similar to Mike Mitchell, he has a standout year, and people are just saying his name all over the place again. What's he going to do? Is he going to just be such a bad influence in the locker room that he forces us to cut him, forces us to trade him, or is he just going to have to stick it out for another year? I feel like we hold the cards. We have a low risk. There's no risk in this deal, none at all, with a very, I won't say very high reward, with a nice reward. So I think that's why I'm interested in the length of it, because I don't know why you would sign that if you were him. I'd rather sign a 1 year.
Yeah, well, Professor, do you remember at the beginning of the year, Gettleman said he was asked how he felt if he had learned anything after his first year. He felt like he's not going to make as many mistakes as he made after that 12-4 season, and we were all saying, "Well, dang, if 12-4 was from his mistakes, where's he going to improve?" Right? Well, I think the length of deals is what he was talking about. After last year, he had 21 free agents to sign, and that was just a mess, right?
Excellent point.
So now you see Ed Dixon or Trendy Dixob signing a 3-year deal. And you see these other guys signing 2-year deals. This year we only had 11 free agents to sign. Next year, so he's starting to manage that whole part of the process. I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
That's an excellent point.
I'd like to point out, last year he was on a 1-year prove-it deal, so he was already on the garbage, on his way out the door as far as the NFL is concerned. So I feel like, at this point he was kind of ready to jump on anything that he could get his hands on. So if he got 2 years guaranteed, even if it wasn't a lot of money, and you look at the state of our safeties, you gotta wonder. Roman Harper's not going to have too many more years left in him. He had to feel pretty good about that. Here's a guy who, he's a consummate seventh round. He's like, Captain Munnerlyn in the safety's body, where he has ultimate faith in his own abilities. So in his mind, he says, well, look, pay me nothing for a couple years, but then after that, you are going to seriously pay me, because I'm going to totally, amaze everyone when I walk in here and start lighting this place up.
Well, I like that attitude, and I think with the front seven that we have, which I don't think is in as bad a shape as we expect, I would not be surprised for us to consider taking a defensive tackle maybe later in this draft, because Colin Cole and Juwan Edwards are as old as dirt, but I think they're serviceable for another year. I think they were excellent additions. So that's going to be interesting, that long-term gain with the length of contracts. I like that concept, and I do hope that he comes in with that attitude of let's prove it. Now let's talk really just momentarily about Teddy the Head Williams. Could any of you guys named the team he played for prior to signing with the Carolina Panthers before you read anything about him?
I could lie, but no.
Yeah.
Before I read up about him, no. I mean, we know where he played now, or where he played now that we've studied up on him a little bit. But yeah, I didn't even remember he was a guy who hit Philly Brown and caused him to fumble the football. So that's, there you go.
And then he didn't even play for them last. Like, that wasn't even the last team he was with last year. And he's so unknown that Joe Person, when he was reporting it, said he last played for the Bears, and he didn't. He last played for the Jags.
Yeah.
This, to me, I don't really get this one. I mean, maybe it's nothing to lose. What do you make of this, Jason, of Teddy Williams?
Well, if you look at Teddy Williams, I mean, you want to talk about raw radioactive material. That's this guy. His measurables are off the chart. You look at his speed. I mean, he got down there and smacked Philly Brown, not because he was slow. This guy's fast.
World class.
I don't know. I don't know if you've listened to Bruce DeHaven very much at all this year, but I haven't seen the product out in the field. But everything I'm hearing out of him, I'm loving. It's just the opposite of what we sort of heard from the last special teams coordinator, Rick Rogers. He's basically saying, hey, bring on the new guys. I'll coach them up, and then if I'm doing my job, they're going to end up on the defense or offense. So, and then I'll just coach up the next batch. So, to me, this almost feels like a Bruce DeHaven saying, "Hey, I like what this guy brings to the table, and I think I can coach him up and turn him into something more than what he is right now."
Do you understand the head reference?
I didn't get it.
Okay, Mel, do you get it?
Teddy the Head Williams.
Yes.
Nope. I was a little afraid to ask.
I think they preserved Ted Williams' head in order to clone him later in life or something like that. His head is cryogenically frozen somewhere. So that's why I call him Teddy the Head Williams. And I said the first thing I said when we signed Teddy Williams, or Ted Williams, was that I heard, rumor has it, he can read the Bible standing on second base if you held it up on home plate. And that's what the rumor was about Ted Williams back in the day. So that's the reference explaining it. And since it is, I think one other thing is, because a lot of people listen to the podcast rather than watching it, it's time to point out the whiteboard. Can anybody see it? And do you get the reference? Read it off, Mel.
Lewis Murphy's Irish Stout.
Happy St. Paddy's Day, Lewis Murphy. All right, let's go on and talk about a former Carolina Panther who is now visiting with the Cowboys, Bucks, Seahawks reportedly in talks, or in the mix. Greg Hardy. How do you guys feel about this? I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm over it. I don't care, except if he goes to the Buccaneers. I want him to land in Dallas. I'm totally fine with that. Mel, how do you feel about Greg Hardy? And you see some people on Twitter being upset about it.
Well, I've voiced my opinion over the last several months, and I can just give the Reader's Digest version that I think the guy should still be here in Carolina. He would have
I
taken a
like
cheap
it.
deal, but he's not coming back, so we got to move on. So where do we want him to end up? Hey, I do not want him in Tampa. I do not want him in Atlanta. I certainly do not want him in Seattle. I mean, the thought of him joining that team is scary. Dallas would be the less. Yeah, I would be fine with that. I'm partially a Dallas fan, so I could have fun with that. And we
How do
play them this coming year, but not like we do Tampa.
How do you feel about this, Jason? I saw, I believe Mac on WFNZ asked how we felt about this, and he also said that Vegas had odds, and he was joking about Greg Hardy getting in trouble in Dallas. And then Bill Vogt tweeted, "How are the strip clubs in Dallas?" So I tweeted back to Bill Vogt, who did not respond back to me. See, a lot of people don't get the professor's joke. Sometimes they go a little too high over the head, like Teddy the Head Williams. But do you remember Jerry Jones got in trouble for he was getting blackmailed by those girls who were AKA strippers, AKA prostitutes?
They were escorts. They were just friends. So let's keep our story straight. They were just good acquaintances. But
That's what I said. I said on Twitter to Bill Vogt, I said, well, maybe Jerry Jones could escort him to the strip clubs. That was my joke. Jason Opel, how do you feel about Greg Hardy, and where is he going to land?
mainly, I'm just ready for this whole thing to be over with. I mean, it never should have been the circus it was last year. We kind of got caught up in the tailwinds of all the other stuff that was going on with Ray Rice and all that. So, really only the Panther fans got punished on that one, which is really the rawest part of that deal. So, yes, it would be nice to have the Kraken, but no, is he needed? Not really. We have Coney Ely. He's coming on strong, exactly like you would hope he would. I would love to see the Kraken take up real estate in Texas Gulf waters. So that is exactly where I want him. I don't want him anywhere near the NFC South, because he's going to have a little something extra for the Panthers every year. So I just assume he'd be someplace else. I understand that I hear conflicting reports whether or not that's him visiting the Seahawks is nonsense. I mean, it's going to be Kraken World Tour for about 2 weeks now, and he'll pick a spot who has plenty of money, and Jerry Jones sounds like as good a spot as any. So just ready for this to be finally done and over with, and we can get back to playing Panther football.
Susan on Twitter, our favorite friend, Susan, who's going to be coming back on the show. I'm going to make her come back. I know she wants to come back. She said this. She saw a report that the Seahawks said they had no plans to talk to him. And what I have to say to you, Susan, is get your billions back, America. We love that commercial, by the way. Okay. Enough of Greg Hardy. I'm tired of him, too. What about this? Last thing before we move on to finish that thought. Why have we not seen Crabtree or Cecil Shorts picked up yet? Jason, what do you think about these guys? Are they entirely out of the Carolina Panthers' range at this point? What's going on with these two dudes?
Well, to me, I didn't Shorts sign today or yesterday.
I think so.
Yeah, so Shorts has been snatched up, but I mean, this is.
Who did he go to?
The Browns? Was it the Browns, maybe? I don't recall.
Texans.
Oh, was it Texans? Thank you.
Oh, jackasses. Okay.
I mean,
the Houston Jackasses.
We got Ted Ginn back, and to me, this coaching staff is all about the young talent and the talent that we have. And if you look at our receiving core, it wasn't horrible last year. Could have been better, yes. You had Ted Ginn Jr. to the equation. He put a nice sort of floor in your wide receiving core. You have, Kelvin Benjamin, who, gets one more year underneath his belt, and then you have Philly Brown, who really started coming on last year. So, Jericho Cotree's in there somewhere, and then Ted Ginn's your number 4 guy. So all of a sudden, you don't have Brenton Burson out there, and your 4 wide receiver sets looks like something credible that you might see on an NFL field instead of, Wofford College. So, to me, I'm fine with our wide receiving core just the way it is. And you got to think with all the wide receivers in this year's draft, we're probably going to pick another one up somewhere along the way.
Mel, before you jump in, I want to give a shout out across the pond to one of our faithful listeners, Jay Cryer, listening to us from the UK. Just sent us a tweet. You can find Jay Cryer at Yeah Boy. I love that Twitter handle right there. It's awesome. Panther Nation. And what's really cool about this is Jay isn't the only person that we interact with in the UK, which is just the most bizarre thing to me. Jay, you'll want to stick around because I got a little football shot to y'all's national game a little later. He listens to us the next day a lot of times too. Mel, what do you think about Crabtree? Or what do you think about? Actually, let's not even talk about Crabtree. What do you think about what Jason's got to say about the receiving core that we have going into 2015?
Well, I am in no way satisfied with our receiving core. I agree with I think Jason and I agree on about 99% of things when we talk. I think we're on the same page. But man, if we roll out there with the same wide receiver core that we had last year, I will be upset. I really will. I'll have to drink about 12 more of these. We need some more talent there. We really do. I mean, you look around the league, Teddy Bridgewater's getting weapons. Colin Kaepernick's getting weapons. All these Andrew Luck keeps getting weapons. We need to give Cam weapons, right? So however, I don't think we should go sign Crabtree, or we should have signed Shorts or anybody else other than maybe one of the higher ends, but we couldn't have afforded Randall Cobb or Jeremy Maclin at $10, $11 million a year. That was ridiculous. This draft, and I think this is the reason why some of these wide receivers are lasting as long as they are, is this draft is so deep at wide receiver, you're going to get day one starters in the third round. You're going to get good contributors in the fourth and fifth rounds. So we're going to get somebody in the first 3 or 4 rounds that's going to be added to this wide receiver core, and they're going to be a lot better.
With that said, one of my buddies, our buddies on Twitter, Smoke Wagon, he likes Greg Jennings. Would that be a bad fit for Carolina, Jason? Just temporarily. Look, I heard Greg Jennings today said he just wants an opportunity. He just wants an opportunity to help a team, to contribute from a leadership standpoint in the locker room, mentor guys. He knows that he won't be the guy. He is happy with being a role player. He is 31 years old, a year younger than Jericho Crabtree. Does that appeal? Is that an appealing replacement potentially for Jericho Crabtree?
I mean, I think if you say is a replacement, then that would depend greatly on the money. I mean, people can say a lot of things, but what it really comes down to is we essentially have $7 million in cap, and free agency is nowhere near done. So, and let me just clarify a little bit. Well, 2 things actually. Let's go back to the Twitter handle real quick. You said it was Yeah Boy. How do you know it's not Yeah Boy? Flavor Flav.
That's a great question.
That's exactly what it is. One more time. Let me get it.
Yeah, boy.
That's totally making the highlight reel.
Yeah, that's the whitest Flavor Flav you ever seen in your life, especially on St. Paddy's Day, okay? Flavor Flav on St. Paddy's Day does not get any whiter. But anyway, let me just say, as far as the talent level on the wide receiver core, I'm fine with this as a floor. And as you said, Aaron, you always want to be adding more talent around Cam. And I expect us to get 1, maybe even 2 wide receivers in this year's draft. I mean, you look at guys like Stephon Diggs out of Maryland. I mean, here's a guy that you want to talk about Randall Cobb type, explosiveness and elusiveness. You stick him in the slot, all of a sudden, man, you got something going on there possibly. So, all these folks have caveats, but to me, the biggest thing is, if you look at the Green Bay Packers, how many free agents have they signed? Outside free agents, 0. How many outside free agents have the Steelers signed? Last time I looked, I think it was 0. So, all of these teams are doing.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Angelo Williams.
Oh yes. Yes. Oh well, such an illustrious addition. So, like I said, you think they're frothing at the mouth about D'Angelo Williams? They're talking on their show like we're talking about our two recent additions. So it's the same type deal. It's a slow and steady wins the race. And you look at the teams that won free agency last year in our division. The Saints and the Falcons, and they're bottom feeding. They're eating our dust.
The annual offseason free agent champion is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're picking first again. So, point well taken.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's my take on it. Everybody be patient. Let's see what comes out of camp, and then we can trash them all season long. So.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Jason. Have you ever wanted to go to a Carolina Panthers game on the road? Yes or no? I mean, not a Carolina Panthers, a road game. Have you ever wanted to go on a road game?
Oh, sure, of course. Who wouldn't? The question is,
would you like to go with 250 other Carolina Panther fans?
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, come on. Those are obviously diehard rabid fans.
If you are interested in doing any such thing, and for all of our listeners, there is a organization who will put a package together for you. No worries, all accommodations. You get an open bar the night before. They set up a tailgate for you. They shuttle you to and from the games. You sit with 50 to 200 Panther fans all together in one section, and you can be a part of that. Every one of us can be a part of that. All you got to do is go to roaringriot.com.
That sounds too good to be true. That's too good to be true.
They have already sold out 6 poolside cabanas for the Jacksonville game this year. And nobody even – what's the weirdest thing about this to you, Aaron? You say it at least 3 times a week when we mention Roaring Riot when we're texting and tweeting.
Oh, man, you lost me.
Nobody knows.
You don't even know what the date of the game is, right?
Yeah. You don't even know what the day of the game is, and they've already sold. People have reserved 250 spots. So, Jason, if you're interested in partying, and I know you are, with 250 other Panther fans on a road game, what website would you consider checking out?
I would think about Roaring Riot. That would be my first stop. So, what I want them to do is I want them to hook up, Panther fans in the pirate ship in Tampa Bay. That's what I want to hook up on. Man the cannons every time we score 6. That's what I want to see.
Nice.
I will sink that pirate ship, brother. That's what I'll do. I will sink that motherfucker pirate ship. And then I will make Greg Hardy walk the plank if he's not.
Hey, let's see if Roaring Riot will hook me up leaving from Vegas going to Tampa. I'll have to look into that.
That's a tough gig.
Roaring Riot likes us. I recommend to every single person going and checking them out. Even if you can't make a game this year, consider it next year. It's a great thing to do, and what an awesome way to do it with fans. Now it's time, guys, for a little Finish That Thought.
Funny. Sometimes I just don't get people. Human beings are so weird. Who talks in front of a camera by themselves for fun? We thought that was a good idea. These ideas, some of these things that you use every day. Who's the guy or a girl that was like,
this makes no sense.
Good idea.
That's a good idea.
That's right. It's time for Finish That Thought, where I pose a thought to you and you finish it. It's pretty simple. Do you understand the game, Aaron?
Yes.
Sorry, I had to speak slow for you. Just kidding. All right. Since it's St. Paddy's Day, your favorite Irish-themed movie is?
Far and Away.
Far and Away. Tell us why that's your favorite.
Oh, you gotta love Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It's just a great story about coming from Ireland over to the new country, laying down your claim for your new land. Great movie.
Wonderful. I gotta love Nicole Kidman.
There you go.
Not so much Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a maniac. Tom Cruise, insanity, man. One time I saw
very good movies, though. He has some great movies.
I give him that. I saw this thing one time when he was on Oprah and he was going crazy jumping on the couch, right? We've all seen the jumping on the couch part. That wasn't the weird part to me. The weird part to me was when he said, and he's talking about Scientology and how special he was and his little planet was and that he had bought. And he said something like to the effect, I know that when I drive past an accident, that I'm the only person that can really help. So I just consider this moment when you've been in a car wreck, you're in dire condition, you could use some real serious medical attention, and the EMT's working on you, and Tom Cruise comes over and shoves them out of the way and says, I'm the only guy that can help in this situation.
Sounds like a pretty good movie idea.
There you go. We got it. Jason, I know this might be on the fly, but do you have a favorite Irish-themed movie?
Yeah, I'm going to go with The Town. And I'm not usually a big...
I like it.
I'm not usually a big Ben Affleck fan, but, whenever he doesn't have to act too much, he's usually okay. And that's pretty much what this is. He's sort of a Boston townie, and if you like the Italian Job and heist movies like that, then I think you'll like The Town. It gives you a real nice flavor of Beantown. So I could give you the whole spiel, but let me just say this. You never know. I mean, have you guys ever seen Mission Impossible? I mean, he helped a lot of people in those movies. I don't know why you guys are ragging on Tom Cruise so much. So,
hey, that was professional ragging, man. I love Tom Cruise.
He's helpful. The only reason Aaron likes him is because they see eye to eye.
Oh,
that's harsh. Oh, that's harsh.
Well, you would if you weren't laying down and you had such the belly out there,
All right. You know what? With The Town, I like that one. I think that really changed my whole idea about Ben Affleck. I thought he directed that movie as well.
I think he wrote part of it. I think he co-wrote it as well.
Yeah. So he's got some talent. All right. I gotta give a tie in this one. My tie goes to, and make sure I didn't offer it. Okay, good. I didn't make it another question later on. This tie goes to, first, my second favorite movie of all time is Boondock Saints, another Boston-themed movie with the great Irish line of this. There are two Irish guys that are being looked for, and they're in the police station, and the guy says, if you want to find them, just put a potato on a string and drag it through the south streets of Boston, and you'll find them. And what a wonderful movie. Boondock Saints was my second favorite movie of all time, only second to Pulp Fiction. The repeat to it was awful, or the sequel, should I say, was horrendous. But this has got to go with the tie for me with an old horror flick that me and my boys used to watch every birthday. I used to have a birthday sleepover and have my friends over. We play flashlight tag. We drink a lot of Dr. Pepper. And
that was just 3 years ago.
Yeah. Good point. And we used to watch Leprechaun. My favorite, most entertaining.
Leprechaun.
Hey, I got a question for you. Is Good Will Hunting? Is that an Irish movie?
Nah, that's a Boston movie.
That's a Harvard movie, right?
Boondock Saints.
Good Will Hunting. That's got that whole Boston area feel.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna say Boston is just New Ireland, then yes.
Okay.
Leprechaun. I got to just say this: two people were in that movie that few people remember. Jennifer Aniston was in Leprechaun, and so was Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon was in everything, so that doesn't count.
And Jennifer Aniston, even though I love her, she's not done a good movie yet.
Leprechaun, duh. Okay. All right. Finish that thought, Mel. Your favorite Irish individual is?
There's a lot of them out there, man. There's a lot of them out there. St. Patrick would be an obvious choice, though he was actually born in England. C.S. Lewis, great Irish guy there. But I'm gonna have to go with a nice sports-themed guy who is about my size. At least when I wear shoes, I'm 5'9", right? And anytime you're 5'9" and you could be a #1 golfer in the world, got to be my favorite Irishman, Rory McIlroy. Great guy, great Irishman.
I'm seeing a common theme with this, 5'9". Jason, do you have a favorite Irishman?
Let's see. I could.
Or it could be an Irish woman, for all I care.
There you go.
Oh,
There you
that
go.
changes everything. Jeez.
There you go. See, now he's interested in Nicole Kidman. But
I love Nicole Kidman.
Nice.
So let's see. I could do. If I stay stuck with movies, I could go with the obvious, and I could say Sean Connery. But I'm not going to do that.
Was he Irish or was he Scottish?
I don't know. It depends on what movie you watch, what his accent's like. But I'm going to go with Cole Meany. I'm going to go with Cole Meany. And if you don't recognize the name, it's because look, I'm a big, huge Star Trek fan. He was Miles O'Brien in that. He was the industrial magnate in Hell on Wheels. Just a big fan of his. He's been in several other things, so he's just a personal favorite of mine. Probably everybody else is kind of looking at me like, what in the world are you talking about? But there.
Oh, no.
Oh, we lost him. Cole Meany just kicked him out of the podcast. He's so meany. He's so meany. Sean Connery, by the way, is Irish and Scottish, so he's Scot-Irish. Okay. Well, wow, hopefully we get Jason back. That was crazy. He just dipped out like I killed him or something.
I think Scotty beamed him up.
There you go. That's a good Irishman right there. My Irishman is going to be Michael J. McGivney. Michael J. McGivney, for you guys that don't know, founded a secret organization that I'm part of called the Knights of Columbus. And I can't tell you anything about it, but it's super cool, and we like to help people. But if I did tell you anything about it, I have to kill you by smothering you with charity. So Michael J. McGivney, thanks. Here's a cheers to your Irish self for helping us help people. All right. Woo! The Bushmill's feeling good.
And for those of you out there who are not watching and you're listening tomorrow on the podcast, the professor just did a manly-sized shot of Irish whiskey.
There you go. It is that time. All right. How about this? And I hope Jason comes back for this. I'm so disappointed he's not around for this. And my question is, if you two, this is Finish That Thought Continued. If you two was a football player, you two would be.
That's a great question.
You like that one, don't you? I was excited about that one.
I do. All right. Well, I'll go first with that one since there's only one of us out here. I will say, hey, Bono, he almost one of my favorite Irishmen. I love the fact that he's a good Christian dude, right? And a lot of his songs are about Christianity and his walk in faith. A lot of good stuff out there. So I'm going to say Tim Tebow. How about that?
What? Okay, I get that. All right. Sorry, it took a little second for the Christian part to process. I was just thinking.
It's because all that whiskey you just shot.
No. It's because I'm thinking of you two. I'm thinking of you two, and I'm thinking the coolest cat I know. And I just don't feel like Tim Tebow's the coolest cat I know. But all right, I'll let you have your moment. I'm going to say this, is that I think that if U2 was a band, if U2 was a band, they are a band. The Irish whiskey, that's the whiskey
kicking in. I told you, America.
If U2 was a football player, I'm going to say this. My first instinct is to go with Aaron Rodgers. Because I feel like Aaron Rodgers is about as cool as they come. He's super relaxed. And I feel like hanging out with Bono would be a lot like that. My question also is this. Who is it that Aaron Rodgers dates again?
Oh, man.
Isn't it Aaron Rodgers' girlfriend? Let me Google it real quick. By the way, you're going to say, when you're talking about non-Christian stuff, some pictures got leaked of her. Aaron Rodgers' girlfriend is Olivia Munn. So I feel like Bono could certainly pull Olivia Munn, and Olivia Munn is kind of that smart pretty too. except for she put naked pictures of herself on the iCloud, which got stolen, so that probably wasn't so smart.
But
So
she looks like she's smart.
she does look like she's smart, and she makes me think that she's smart. So I'm gonna say Aaron Rodgers. If YouTube was a football player, I'm gonna go with Aaron Rodgers. Jason, you're back. We're glad to have you because we got an excellent question. Finish that thought. If YouTube was a football player, they would be.
Let's see. I'm a selective fan of YouTube, or YouTube, excuse me. So I'm gonna say Chris Cluey, the former Vikings punter slash activist slash
Very
whatever. So yes, they're competent in spots, and some duds, but at the end of the day, they end up being kind of annoying.
Whoa.
Oh.
Okay.
Wait.
I mean,
Did I walk into a YouTube room or something?
yeah, it's okay. Yeah, kind of. We're kind of like the Catholic revolutionaries here, but that's just me. Okay, Mel, here's a good one for you. Finish that thought. If corned beef and cabbage was a football team, they would be.
Well, when you think of corned beef and cabbage, that's the quintessential Irish food. It's kind of the best of the best when it comes to correlating the two. So when you think of the best when it comes to football, there's no other choice. It's the Carolina Panthers, baby.
It's so succulent. It's
awesome.
Jason, if corned beef and cabbage was a football team, they would be.
Okay, before I answer this is starting to feel like a Barbara Walters interview. If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? But I'm going to say that corned beef and cabbage, while not particularly tasty like the Carolina Panthers, is sort of your hearty stock. It's sort of the staple. It's the thing that you eat every day, and maybe it's not the best thing, but you still enjoy eating it. So I'm going to say. It's the Atlanta Falcons because we do enjoy eating their lunch just almost every single year.
Nice.
I really like where Mel took this with corned beef and cabbage being.
Professor, are you there?
I thought it was me again. It must be all this green. Too much green is too much luck, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. But it looks like the professor froze up here. So I'm going to run with one more, finish that thought while the professor kind of fixes it there. Here's one that I'd like to throw out there. Would you trade a lifetime supply of Guinness beer for one season, being the 2015 season, with Jimmy Clausen coming back as your quarterback?
Oh, well, you see, that seems like a wash because even if you have the lifetime supply of Guinness beer, you're going to need all of that for just that one season. You're going to drink that whole thing just in those 6 to 9 months alone. So I'm going to say no, it's not worth it. I can't drink enough beer to make myself comfortable on that game day. I mean, I don't want to. That's the Leprechaun 3 movie that was like, oh, that's not a good horror movie. I've seen the ending. That's horrible. We don't want to watch that again, even with a tremendous amount of Guinness beer. I can't go that far with it.
Right. Now, it would take an awful lot of Guinness beer to sit through 16 games of Jimmy Clausen being the quarterback.
Now throw in some Lewis Murphy Irish Stout, and maybe I have to start thinking about that. So.
Right. I hear you. So it's all about Jason, right?
Of course.
Yeah, forget. I'm with you. All right. Well, hey. Some other things that have gone on this week with the Carolina Panthers. People are gearing up for the draft, right? And people are starting to think about what we have to look at in terms of filling out the roster. And some under-the-radar moves, I think, were things we talked about earlier, signing of Coleman, signing of Teddy Williams. What else do you see them doing under the radar as far as what are some other positions you think they might try to fill here in the next coming weeks? Because I think we both agree there's not going to be that big signing, that big, we're not going to go get Greg Hardy.
Right.
Right. What do you see? What do you anticipate? Running back, wide receiver, defensive lineman? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think anything's a possibility with Gettleman, but I will say one thing we've heard him talk about in particular is cornerback position. While we did get good play out of Norman and Ben Wickery, I know that they're looking to add more competition to that position, so you might look at some value signings there. Dave Gettleman, he's always looking for pass rushers, so I wouldn't rule that out either.
You think O.C. Umenyiora might be on the horizon?
I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like if you got at least released by the Atlanta Falcons, and their pass rush is not exactly dynamic, you got to think there's not a lot left in the tank there for OC. So, although I wouldn't rule it out just because former Giant, if anybody knows this guy, it's going to be Gettleman. So, but I don't see that happening. It's always going to be the name out of left field with Gettleman just because he spends 80 hours a day looking at this film. And he's going to have names in the back of his hat that we're going to look at. We're going to be scrambling to look up, on the 4th-string depth chart someone else, and he comes in and starts for us and plays great. So,
right.
I think cornerback and you mentioned running back. I think that's another real possibility. I know Jonathan Stewart had some nice games last year, but really that was more a function of our offensive line really coming together and gelling. So. If he could find someone, the one guy I really wanted, C.J. Spiller. I know some people disagree with that.
I did too. Yeah.
I know he's already landed someplace else. So to me, you're just kind of dealing with the dregs at this point. So I don't think there's a lot out there, but I do think with this running back rich draft, you might see them add some more running back talent during the draft. So.
Hey. Totally agree, and thank God the professor is back because I did not print off the show notes. I was just going with a wing and a prayer, so welcome back, Professor.
It's okay, the power went out.
Whoa. What happened to the Lucker Irish, man? We have green all over the place.
I'm not Irish, dude. That's the problem. I'm celebrating the wrong damn holiday. My holiday is going to come later, I guess. So... I guess what we were just going to move on to next, and since you were winging it, thank you for doing it.
Just to fill you in on what you missed, we did one more finish that thought, and Jason said no, he would not trade a lifetime supply of Guinness for 1 year of Jimmy Clausen back at quarterback, but he would think about it if it was a lifetime supply of Lewis Murphy's Irish Stout.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's a good answer. What I want to do is just talk about a couple of things, and let's just bounce around to the rest of the league. I mean, not the rest of the league, the rest of the division. Tampa Bay going after Hardy. They've been supposedly maybe in the talks with him, but relatively quiet though. Did they learn their lesson last year, Jason? They cut everybody they signed last year. They've had a lot of money, and they've still been rather inactive in the free agency period.
It's hard to know with Lovie Smith. I don't really understand what he's doing up there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But with the defense that he runs, that cover 2 system, he has to have edge rushers, and if he doesn't have that, then he's pretty much smoked. No matter what else he does. So. If I'm Lovie Smith, I know I need to get some edge rushers because the tank's running on E as far as that's concerned. So Greg Hardy's a guy that you probably don't mind emptying out your piggy bank for a little bit.
That's a scary thought.
Mel, what do you think about their inactivity in free agency to this point? Did they learn their lesson?
Well, I don't think we know whether or not they've been active or not. I mean, they haven't been the headlines. That's one thing, but Lovie Smith is kind of a low-key guy anyway. So I think that's something that we don't really know what they've been doing. We know they haven't signed a whole lot of people, so they may just be tanking this season. Say, what, we're gonna build it from the ground up and strip this thing down and get all the rust out and we'll get you next year because you look at this thing and there's not much on the body this year. So,
Mel, take it. Tell me what you think while I get my camera fixed.
Yeah, no, I agree with Jason. Like I say, he and I agree on about 99% of things. So, I do agree with what he's saying. But, you got to think that they're trying to learn, or at least maybe the owner has slapped them on the hands and said, guys, I put out big money for Anthony Collins, for Michael Johnson, for all these free agents, throw all this money out there, and they suck. And we got the number 1 pick. Cut them, and let's do this thing the Carolina Panthers way. Let's do it right. So I think they're trying. I think they're working.
I want to ask you the same question about the Atlanta Falcons. Also been relatively quiet. Had $32 million going into
I'm
the
surprised.
season.
Yeah, I'm surprised they've been so quiet.
Why do you think this is, Mel?
I really don't know. I mean, you got the new coach coming in. I really expected a huge churn and turnover in personnel based on, a new scheme coming in, needing new players to fit a style. I'm really perplexed at how quiet they've been. Now, I did see reports today, for some strange reason, Michael Bennett from the Seattle Seahawks is wanting a trade to Seattle.
To the Falcons.
From Seattle to the Falcons. I mean, what is that guy thinking? I don't know. But, no, I'm shocked that Atlanta hasn't done a whole lot. And, I wasn't necessarily looking for them to hit the big names, but I'm surprised there weren't a lot of just total personnel going from that 3-4 to a 4-3.
Jason, are you surprised they didn't go after a tight end?
Well, as you said, I guess it depends on. I forget who they landed as the OC, but I know at Seattle the tight end isn't exactly the focus of the offense thus far.
Now.
Exactly. So, and that was kind of a perplexing move to me, just because the tight end has been such an afterthought in Pete Carroll's offense. So, I don't quite get that. I'm sure he has a plan for that, and I'm sure he's going to change things around to fit Jimmy Graham, because that's what Pete Carroll does. But I'm maybe mildly surprised. I wonder if part of this might be Arthur Blank, because he kind of got in the same boat that the Saints did, and they hopped in win now mode there for a couple of years. They grabbed Julio Jones, and I know their draft pick tank has been kind of empty, and they've tried to sign a bunch of free agent names that haven't quite worked out for them, a bunch of busts. So, like you said, it almost feels like the rest of the NEC South is a little bit gun shy, and we're sort of the ones who are sort of sitting pretty because, hey, we won last year. We had a lot of injuries. So did the Falcons. But it really is interesting that they let a lot of that talent on the defensive side walk out the door, and they're not really looking to refill the tank. I mean, Witherspoon leaving is a big deal to me.
Yeah.
I thought that I don't really see. I haven't heard any tight end being talked about in the draft as a top prospect. I'm not a draft guru, so I mean I don't know these types of things. But I mean, last year we had a weak tight end class. Eric Ebron being the cream of the crop, and he is okay. I mean, he's pretty good. He did all right for his rookie season, but I just feel like that tight end position is going to be difficult. It was they did well when they had it. When Gonzalez was.
Could you imagine if they had gone out and spent some of that money and got Julius Thomas? Trying to guard Julius Thomas and Julio Jones, that would have been.
I know. I thought that was the move. Another name that people threw out was Jordan Cameron.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I thought, hey, you got $33 million. You don't need to go out and try to get everybody. I was surprised. It's okay. I understand. I was surprised they didn't try to get a pass rusher. Okay. But I feel like this is that if I'm a GM, I mean, I guess that's why I'm not a GM. But I feel like if I am going to spend some money, instead of spending $7 million on 7 dudes and 4 of them not even making the team, I'm just going to go get one dude that is going to make the team and make a difference.
Yeah.
I thought that I was really astonished that with $32 million in cap space, they didn't do this. I wonder if this is them looking towards, again, maybe Julio Jones' contract's on the horizon. I don't know. It does not seem like they got a lot of players, though, that are super mega talented that they're going to have to worry about keeping.
Yeah.
Well, it may be partly too that when you look at what happened to the Falcons last year, while maybe they're both sides of the ball up front, they're not as talented as what we have been. They had a ton of injuries on their offensive line, and they may just be sort of sitting back, laying in the weeds, just like we are with our offensive line. Say, hey, maybe it wasn't so great at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year it was a whole lot better. So I know the Falcons had a lot of injuries, so maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe they think they're going to be able to run the ball out more effectively. It's hard to say, Steven Jackson being gone, but it's difficult to know with the new regime exactly how they're going to handle things, and I think that's sort of where the dark corners are. It's going to be an interesting year for the Falcons for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. All right, Mel, last make a couple of comments. Is the Saints blowing up their team good or bad?
Well, it's fun to watch. I mean, I listened to a WFNZ interview this morning with Frank Garcia and Bill Polian. I thought it was great. Frank is always saying, hey, there's a way to manipulate the cap if you really want to win now. He's always said that. Bill Polian said, Frank, as a player, you should think that. But the truth is, the cap never forgives and the cap never forgets. And it comes back to bite you. And he said the Saints went a long way a few years ago with that mentality of manipulating the cap, and they're paying for it right now. But to give them credit, they're not just crying poor and laying down. They have made some signings. I mean, they went out and got C.J. Spiller, who I think, if healthy, is a good player, even though Susan out there vehemently disagrees with me. I think he's a good player. I think Brandon Browner, in the right system, used the right way, is a good player. So Max Unger is a good player. So though they got rid of Jimmy Graham, they have made some additions. Now, I mean, they are just so strapped, though. They're imploding, but they're not laying down.
Jason, give us just a couple of thoughts on the Saints blowing up their team.
Like you said, Aaron, it's a beautiful thing to watch because we've heard this trash talking for years, and we've heard, as you said, Bill Polian and guys like Andrew Brandt warning, hey, the bill does come due, and the credit card company is gonna want their money sooner or later, and that day is today.
That's right.
And as you said, all these free agent acquisitions they've made, all this juggling of cap, all this rollover money. I mean, our GM, he said it best. He said, hey, if you think you're one player away, you're going to get yourself into trouble because you don't know enough to predict the future, what's going to happen to that one player away strategy. You might suffer two or three critical injuries. Drew Brees could go down. Anyone could go down. And, your season's shot. So, to me, this is just, I knew this was coming. I think everyone knew this was coming for a couple of years now. You're just kind of wondering when it was all going to come to a head. And I got to wonder, how much longer is Mickey Loomis going to have a job? Because he really botched up their cap situation, something fierce. And it's going to take them a while to rebuild because, let's face it, they're not exactly, loaded with talent. They remind me so much of the Cowboys, in the sense that they have a lot of talent, but not, right up front on the front lines. But you start getting back there in depth, and there's really nothing there.
Smoke Wagon just tweeted me, said the Saints are looking to draft Sammy Coates. Jesus, more. God no.
At 13, really?
At 13, probably second round. Oh no, do they get first? Do they get 2 first-round picks?
No.
I think they do. I think they get 13 and 31 when they gave away Graham.
Oh, yes, they would at 31. Yes, you're right. Yes.
Well, until Smoke Wagon tweeted me that, I had some good things to say. I'm with Aaron. I'm going to say cheers to them.
I'll drink to that. I'll drink to that, yeah.
You know what I got to say is,
this is good news, people.
That is good news, people.
I'll give it to you one more time in case you couldn't hear it.
This is good news, people.
That is good news, people.
Can you give me a panties in the wallet?
I can actually, but I'm gonna need a second on that because my computer crashed in the damn. That we're gonna save that one, but we're gonna go on now. The last segment of the show. Let me turn the volume down so I don't blast you guys out of the damn room. Backdoor Fiction! It's time for Fact or Fiction, folks. Joey's favorite segment because he's
Yes, sir.
I say Fact or Fiction. It's also Susan's favorite. Get your billions back. Fact or Fiction, Mel. Mario Addison is more Irish than Melvin White.
Nice. Oh, man, I don't even know how to answer that, but I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to say that's straight up fact.
I thought it was awesome when I wrote it. Jason, Mario Addison is more Irish than Melvin White.
Okay, I'm gonna have to say fiction because Mario is clearly an Italian name, and Melvin White. That sounds a lot more Irish to me than Mario Addison. I expect for Mario Addison to be in like a Francis Ford Coppola movie or something like that, not necessarily
So he
Boondock
had
Saints.
an Italian mother with an Irish father. Mario.
No, that's way too explosive. That can't happen. Come on, to me that's way too explosive. You can't have
Everybody's just drunk and fighting and crying all the time.
Yeah, having a great time.
Thank God my wife is like English and reserved. No. Okay. I like that answer. I'm gonna go with you as well. Fiction. Melvin White is totally more Irish than Mario Addison.
No doubt.
All right. How about this? Fact or fiction? You would prefer D'Angelo Williams over
Fiction.
Gary Williams in a pub fight. Fact or fiction? And I'll ask Jason first because he was quick on the draw.
Well, you said D'Angelo Williams. There's automatic fiction. I'm going to go with C, none of the above. I'm going to go with Brian Folkert's Caveman Center.
Ooh.
So that's a guy who. Now wait a minute. Let me ask you. Is this here my back or I'm getting into a fight with D'Angelo Williams?
Oh no, they got your back.
Oh no, it's got to be Brian Folker's Caveman Center.
Okay.
So.
Fact or fiction? You would prefer D'Angelo Williams to have your back over Gary Williams in a pub fight, Mel.
Now, even though Gary Williams is a big man, right? So, I mean, that alone, you got the intimidation factor. But I'm going to go with fact because one thing I like about D'Angelo Williams, and there's a lot that I don't like, but what I do like about him is he is a WWE wrestling fan, big time. Every year, he goes to WrestleMania with Gary Barnidge, who used to be a Panther tight end, right now plays for Cleveland. And he looks just like WWE superstar Kofi Kingston. If you don't believe me, Google it, look it up. Absolute looks just like him. So I think he would be dropping an elbow off the bar for me.
God, you almost talked me into it. You totally almost convinced me. I'm gonna say Gary Williams is a big man, and I'm gonna like him in a pub fight. So I'm gonna say fiction. All right. Well, since you guys did the last fact or fiction and finished that thought, I think we should just go ahead and close out the show because we are.
You gotta do Ice Up, son.
Oh, we are, but that is the end. This is the end segment. Ice Up, son. It's where we tell someone in the NFL, the world, anywhere, the universe. It could even be a 12-year-old boy in Oklahoma, which I have done. That's right. To ice up and toughen up and to get their mess together. It's time for that. Ice Up Son segment of the week. Joey, I wish you were here, brother. We're going to give you the de-ice up. Get well. Defrost up. Mel, do you got an Ice Up Son pick for us?
I do. And for those of you watching out there on catchronicles.com or watching this podcast live or the next day, you can see what I'm pulling up here. And if you're listening on the podcast, you're just going to have to bear with me. But
describe it. Use your descriptive words.
You will hear my description as I go through this. All right. Let me say the nice thing about Ice Up Son, you can even give it to people that you love. You know, and I'm not above giving an Ice Up Son to the professor for making fun of short people, you know, and things like that. So
I'm kind of short. I'm 5'11". 5'10". I just lied. I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10".
All right, but you can give Ice Up Sun picks to people that you otherwise love and just respect and want to be around. And let me say, I love me some Cam Newton. I really do. I think he's going to take us to the promised land. I love the dynamics that he brings to the game. But if you look at the screen here on the left, when you're looking at the screen, is what you want your NFL quarterback to be looking like. Doing the Superman pose on the field, being excited, getting the crowd into it. Over on the right, however, is not what you want your quarterback representing your city looking like. All right? I mean,
What are those, dude?
these are the glitter slippers that I don't even know how to describe them, but he was wearing these atrocious looking bedroom slippers that
Are they
got
lit?
stuck. I don't think so. I just think that he stepped in glitter or something. Maybe we're going to have Susan and Abby jump on Twitter and tell us what these shoes are. They're our fashion experts.
They
But
look like lips. It looks like wax lips on a pair of glittery slippers.
yeah, it's awful. He was wearing this at a Tim Tebow charity function down in Florida, where he was wearing a bow tie and a red, almost like a smoker's jacket. So I mean, the dude has some casual or some refined taste in his outfits. I mean, you remember the yoga pants that he was wearing earlier in the year at the press conference.
They were capris.
Capris, I'm proud of the fact I don't know the difference. But let me say,
I hate capris.
People can do what they want in every aspect of their life. But when you're my quarterback, don't go out there and wear these girly slippers, And I'm not insinuating. I know he's not, right? But even let's say if he were homosexual, that's totally fine with me. I don't care about that. But don't wear girly slippers.
This is going down a dangerous road, brother.
Oh, man.
No, look,
What
Too
we
much
gotta
alcohol.
tell this, I
Too
don't
much
know if your girly slippers mean what they mean, guy, to do.
I'm not saying I don't think he is, but even if he were or anybody else who is, I'm cool with that. I totally am. That's fine. That's their choice. But you don't have the freedom to wear those kind of shoes and represent Charlotte. Cam Newton, ice up, son.
All right. You know what I think of when I see men in slippers? I don't got a problem with men in slippers after I watched The Wire and I saw Omar wear them pink fluffy slippers to the damn grocery store with some silk pajamas on or whatever he had, carrying that big-ass gun and where they just dropped the drugs out the window because they were scared of them. Wore pink fluffy but Omar was, if you remember.
He was, but that's
He was.
Yeah, I'm not saying, but hey.
All right, slippers with lips with wax lips on them, glitter wax lips.
When you're 6'5", when you're 6'5", 250 pounds, and you are the man, you
And
can
you're
wear
wearing
whatever
capris
you want.
and slippers, man.
Yeah.
You can do that. You're the only dude that can do that. I like it. Jason, have you brought up an ice up pick for us?
I have, but let me just close out the last segment by saying, my man Cam, dude, you live next to Michael Jordan. I'm sure he's got a pair of Air Jordans you can slip on right quick. If you don't have anything else, you know how this you're late for work, you're looking around, oh, I'll put these on. It's like, no, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. That was not right. So, just go next door and knock on, yeah, Mike, man, you got a pair of Jordans. All right, cool. But my ice up is, Aaron said that we agree on about 99% of things, and we agree on this one in that you can tell your friends ice up. And this one goes especially to you, Tony, and to you, Aaron, because y'all pounded it back something fierce. And, I think all of Panther Nation and all of the United States is going to have to ice up after this St. Patty's Day. So get ready, folks. It's coming tomorrow. Ice up, son.
Sometimes it's worth the pain, but all right.
Hey, what's up? An ice up on my own show. I've never had that. I don't even know what to do. I'm changing my ice up pick right back at you, brother. No. Okay. All right.
Well done, Jason. Well done.
The problem is you should have seen last week's show. I mean, this is just cooling down.
Yeah. What was it, like 3 shows ago? I mean, he was saying, let me have one more 10 and Johnny.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness!
yeah, good
Whoa,
point. Good point.
bro. Yeah, you
Well,
go
we're
too
here to
far
be
there.
fans. I'm not a football analyst. I'm a football fan, and I'm an expert, and I'm just tailgating, brother. That's all
That's
I'm
it.
doing.
Just having a good time.
You have to be
I
careful.
got I'm flipping the script again. I'm throwing it down, flipping it, and reversing it.
Nice.
And I'm gonna go with a de-ice up pick or a defrost pick this week. And my pick goes to Dick Vitale.
Ooh.
Brother, I love how you kissed Ashley Judd on the lips at the end of the SEC championship when Kentucky won it. Way to go.
Mr. Vitale.
One-time player.
I'm going to tell you this, is that when I'm an old man like you, I'm totally kissing Ashley Judd if she's around. That
She's not
is
going to be that pretty. She won't be that pretty, then.
the next Ashley Judd Jr. Have you ever heard of a woman named Junior?
Only in the South, brother. Maybe in Atlanta.
The third. Ashley Judd Jr. the third, you know.
Interesting question. If you name your kid Junior and she's a girl, you're going to get a nice up pick. That's just the rule of thumb. This is the C3 podcast. We have made it through celebration. We have made it through whiskey. We have made it through beer. We have made it with friends. But we missed our buddy Joey, and we wish you well, Joey. We hope you get better. Jason, we also like to thank you for coming on the show. Tell everybody, I've seen you've been doing a lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of player profiles. Tell people what you're working on and how they can find your work.
Absolutely. So just head on over to CarolinaProFootball.com and you can find everything we're working on. As you mentioned, we've been doing a lot of draft work and some stuff for YouTube. A lot more of that coming on later in the next week or two. Check out our last episode. That's episode 29, I believe it is. We did a pretty cool series on the no huddle offense, and what you're going to see next year is Cam Newton running a lot more of that Auburn-style offense. And if you want to see and hear what that entails and what the idea is behind that offense, so you're the smartest guy or gal at the water cooler, come check it out over at CarolinaProFootball.com. And we're going to have you two on at some point, but you have to moderate the gin and tonic. So you can bring the gin and tonic, but you have to moderate it. That's all we're asking.
I don't know what he's talking about. Mel.
Gin and juice? Gin and juice?
I don't know what he's talking about. I don't moderate anything. Neither.
That's good. You'll fit right in. That's great. You'll fit right in.
Second, Mel, when did we get a new offensive coordinator? Oh, yeah. How are you going to do the no huddle when the offensive coordinator doesn't even know what it is? That's just my question. Yeah. Mel, what are you working on? I know you've been working hard, and where can they find you because you're super active?
Right on. Well, hey, I'm always busy on Twitter, trying to keep up with all the latest draft discussions, figuring out who's going where on pro days, things of that nature. There's some big pro days this week. One I'm interested in tomorrow is that Jay Ajayi, or J.E. out of Boise State. I mean, that's a guy that we could really take in the second round. But I'm working on the 2.0 version of our mock draft at Carolina Cat Chronicles. Smokewagon and I did a version. 1.0 went out last weekend, and it was incredibly popular. Huge traffic, lots of questions, a lot of tweets about it. So we're coming back out. He and I are doing another one coming out later this week. So check that out. A lot of changes after free agency. So that's pretty fun, pretty exciting. And as always, I'm active over there on drafttech.com, the Panthers analysts doing their mock drafts actually daily this time of year. So keep him busy. Keep him busy.
Thanks, guys, for joining the C3 podcast. This is the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, bringing it to you totally unfiltered. The only time of the week that I do that, actually, is Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. That's when I just
Tony,
let it all,
Professor, when can we hear you on the radio, man? That's what I want to know.
You can hear me Fridays. Usually I'm on between 3 and 3:45 on Fridays on Pirate Radio 1250. You can stream it online. You can download the app. It's pretty fun. Also have to dial it back, little Jason Opal style. But they like for me to bring it. A little beep 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 they can give every now and then if it gets out of hand. This is where I let my fandom flow. Right here. When I write, I'm a lot more reserved. I'm a lot more cautious. The C3 podcast is for me and you to be a fan. And I thank every single person for listening, for chiming in, for tweeting us. Because you know what? Without you, football's just a kid's game. So we'll see you next Tuesday night, 10 p.m., where I bring it the same. No feedback, brother. That's it.